real cases before a real judge.
And now, enter the courtroom of Judge Mathis. Plaintiff Mallory Powers met the defendant at work, and they rented an apartment with a third roommate, whom Mallory had a sexual relationship with. Mallory claims the defendant moved out before their lease expired, so she's suing. Defendant Joshua Wilcox says living with Mallory and their third roommate was like an X-rated episode of Three's Company. Joshua claims if Mallory and their other roommate weren't having sex out in the open, they were fighting, and that caused him to move out.
All right, tell me what happened.
Okay, I met Josh in about January of 2009. He started working at the restaurant that I worked at. Seemed really cool. Everything was nice. Like, we were really good friends, hung out a couple of times while I went through like a rough patch with my boyfriend at the time. And Josh let me crash on his couch, so that's when we decided that we were going to move in together.
You were living with your boyfriend?
I was, at the time, yes. Was living, unfortunately. Sorry. So Josh let me crash on his couch, and then, we decided that we'd get a place together since we got along so well. And then we decided to bring in a third roommate who was my FWB. And
that friends with benefits?
Yes.
All right. Meaning the only nature of the relationship was sex? Sex without commitment?
Yes. And so Josh thought it would be a good idea for him to move in with us too, because he needed a roommate and it would make it cheaper on us we could get a bigger apartment, it'd be cheaper on rent. So we all moved in together. Everything was gravy, like Three's Company in reverse. Like, we were all really good friends, hung out. Well, the third roommate kind of went sour, went downhill real fast.
How so?
He started dating another coworker of ours.
And?
Well, it just was real awkward.
How so?
You
just said you didn't have a commitment. You said the nature of relationship was sex without commitment. So what was the problem with him?
We were together without the title, if that makes sense.
You just gave the title. What are you talking about? You said friends with benefits. That means sex without commitment. Meaning if he had no commitment to you, he can have sex with whoever he wanted to have sex with, including your coworker.
Right.
Or roommate. Did y'all have sex?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay. You could have. You could have, and it wouldn't have been no thing. You're friends just like him, right?
Yeah, but ain't nothing like it happening.
Go ahead.
And so we beefed out for about a week. Well, then we kind of squashed it, and it was like, okay, whatever. Well, like, after that, I kind of distanced myself a little bit. Plus, like, I was like mother hen in the house because they lived like slobs. And so I was like picking up and everything around them. And I'm like, you're grown men. I shouldn't have to pick up after you. So I went on strike and refused to clean. Well, it got so bad that like there were maggots in the sink at one point. Yeah, it was really bad. And so then I was finally like, okay, you guys have got to get me out of this lease. Well, me and Josh had not really an altercation, but we had a moment where he accidentally got locked out of the house and thought it was my fault. And so he decided to bust through the front door.
How did he accidentally get locked out?
Well, I went home in between shifts, and I locked the door behind me on my way out because nobody was home. And whenever...
Did he have a key?
Yeah, but his keys were inside apparently, but I didn't know that.
Oh, he left his keys then?
He left his keys inside,
all right. So he was locked out based on something he did?
Right.
Okay. Let me hear from you, sir, before we get to the breaking of the lease and the emotional distress that she's suing you about.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest with you. When I moved into this situation, I did not anticipate what I was in for. It was kind of like Roadhouse servers gone wild. And she's kind of got the Three's Company part right, but I'm more like the X-rated version, and I'm Jack Tripper and ain't getting none. But
everybody else.
And, the friends with benefits thing, they were cool. That was fine for several weeks, but it just kind of got a little out of hand.
How so?
I'm a full-time student, and I was working full-time at the Roadhouse. And I would come in at night, ready to do some studying and kick back in my recliner. And I'd opened the door one night and I walked in and her and the other roommate were going at it there in my recliner. And I just, just went on to my room. It was a little much, They
were having sex in the chair
yes,
when
sir.
you walked, when you came in from school.
Yes, sir. And that's not the only occasion. There was other occasions I would come into the apartment from, being at work or out hanging with my friends, and you could smell it in the air.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was obvious.
No, that's not true.
I mean, on her couch. That was her couch. I don't care what they do on her couch. But I'll tell you how bad it got. I got up in the middle of the night one night about 2:30 in the morning to go have a glass of milk, and I'm standing there pouring my milk, and I look out the window. And next thing I know, my feet's covered in milk. They're out there on the porch getting at it, and I was just blown away.
That is not
we had a third floor balcony.
Your feet covered with milk.
My cup overflowed.
Because you were intrigued by what you were seeing.
Well, yeah. It's one thing to walk in and, catch them in the living room. But the balcony, it's kind of like they were like doing a website or something, doing exhibitionists.
But if you didn't enjoy it, sir,
I was surprised.
You would turn your head and say, Instead, you said, kept pouring.
You got to catch a little peek, right?
You poured a gallon of milk on yourself watching this activity that you might otherwise be charged for.
Right.
In the film, they charge you for that. You were getting a free live performance. So don't act like that was so terrifying. You were terrorized.
I was just taken by it. I could understand in the house with the shades down. But it's another thing on the balcony. We live right facing over the interstate.
Did they ever expect you to come in when they were in the house? Do you know?
As a server, your hours vary. You could pop
so
in
they didn't
at 8
know
or
when
10.
you were coming in. They were just sex fiends, and every time they had a chance, wherever they were, that's when they did their thing.
Yeah.
All right. You're a sex fiend?
None of that is not true. Maybe a little bit, but that's not true.
Maybe a little bit.
There's no exaggeration there, Judge, whatsoever.
She's going to win, sir. She sounds very honest. Anytime somebody admits that they're a fiend of any sort. Go ahead, man.
Okay, that is not true, because if it is, I may have been a little intoxicated if that ever happened.
Every night.
All right, you're a sex
That
fiend?
is all. None of that
You're
is
sex
not
fiend?
true. Maybe a little bit, but that's not true.
Maybe a little bit.
There's no exaggeration there, Judge, whatsoever.
She's going to win, sir. She sounds very honest. Anytime somebody admits that they're a fiend of any sort.
Plaintiff Mallory Powers is suing her former roommate, who claims he often saw Mallory having sex with their other roommate on their balcony.
All right. How did he break the lease?
He broke the lease because he was slowly moving his stuff out. Well, one day I came home in between shifts, and he was there with a manager that I had at the time that worked with us, moving all of his stuff out. And I confronted him. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm leaving. I can't afford to pay the rent, and I'm not working."
The amount?
Whenever he broke
breach.
the lease, we were told that, or I was told whenever I went to court, that we were going to have to pay the month's rent, which was $750 plus damages, which were $450 for the busted door and holes in the wall from his recliner.
I wasn't the one rocking my recliner around.
Why don't you just break it all down for me?
Okay.
You're suing him for emotional distress and the cost of breaking a lease.
Yes.
Break it down for me.
Okay.
How much do you want for emotional distress?
$1,000.
All right. And how much do you want for the breaking of the lease?
The $617.
All right. And so that is based on what? The $617?
The $617 is what it was originally $1,204 is what the apartment was asking for. Well, I couldn't afford to pay that, and he refused to give me any money for it. So they eventually settled for $617.
Okay. What's the emotional distress?
Because whenever Josh basically just dipped out on us, I wasn't going anywhere. The third roommate wasn't going anywhere. We were dealing with the situation we were staying. Well, he just left. I asked for 2 months to be signed out of the lease.
What did they tell you?
Whenever I went to the front desk, they told me that as long as the boys would sign off for me to leave, that I could be taken off the lease and everything.
Didn't?
They refused to do that.
Okay.
So I dealt with the situation. I stayed there. And whenever he left, I ended up having to max out my credit card because I didn't have anywhere to stay. I had to stay in a boyfriend's apartment until I could get a place to live.
Okay, because you had to find another place to live, you want $1,000.
Right. Plus, I am not able to be put on a lease at this time.
Why?
Still. because from where it was on my credit report.
Okay, there you go. Something about your credit that was damaged as a result of him breaking the lease.
Right.
All right, sir. What do you want to tell me about the emotional distress and breaking the lease?
If anybody should get anything for emotional distress, it's me. I witnessed more there than I should have sexually. And, you know, it goes beyond that. I felt like I was at the main event several times. I mean, they were throwing down like Tyson. She slapped him, he hit her, he put a hole in her bedroom door.
Your
There was
Honor,
constantly
that's not
yelling
true.
and fighting.
This is during sex?
No,
That's
sir.
not true.
Probably. I'd say there was choking involved, but I don't know about all that.
That's
I call it
not
like a
true.
10-second glimpse, but it's just a little much.
And you broke
know?
the lease because of those
Well,
things?
it was more beyond that.
Why then
roommate,
did you break the lease, and
Okay.
what defense do you have?
Well, the third roommate and his new friends with benefits, they had been doing quite a bit of talking of moving themselves. They had been getting ads out of the paper and places for new places. Mallory as well had been speaking with a couple of the other girls about getting a place.
After I
and
So
tried
what,
2
you wanted to
months.
beat him to the punch? Is that your point?
Everything that was going on, and with her and him, and then with me getting involved there towards the end with everything.
Why didn't you
I just
pay
said
your
I was
share?
out.
So- all right, fine. You were leaving. Why didn't you pay your share?
Well, at that time, I wasn't serving tables. I was going to school full time, and I was pouring
So you
concrete.
couldn't afford it? That's what
No,
your
sir,
point?
I couldn't afford it. I
All
poured
now-
concrete, and it was a very
all
slow.
right, so you broke your lease unlawfully, meaning you said, because I couldn't afford it, that's not a defense to breaking your lease.
Well, she stated that I couldn't afford it.
No, you just stated.
I said,
Sir,
well, I couldn't.
you just
That was
moved
point.
out. You broke the lease. I said, sir, why did you break the lease? You said, because I couldn't afford it.
Well, that was one of the issues, but
Judgment
it was
for the
more so
plaintiff,
than
ma'am.
that.
Have a good day. $1,617.
First of all, you never witnessed any of that. We never hit each other, and you didn't work but a month while we lived there. The rest of the time, you lived off of your income taxes. And how dare you ever say that you saw me having sex?
You did, Mallory.
No, you did not. You
Y'all
never saw
drank
me that
every
one time.
night.
You drank with
I'd
us.
say 100 gallons
You
of
drank with
vodka went
us.
through you and the other
You drank
roommate
with
while we
us,
were there.
Josh. You drank
Yeah,
with us.
but I'm not
You
as
never
big of a
saw us
drinker
have
as you
sex.
guys was.
You never
Yes,
saw
I
us
did.
have sex. That's
Yes, I
ridiculous.
did.
That's the most ridiculous call you could
You
have
even
ever done.
laughed and said, well, maybe I was drunk. Yeah, you did, Mal.
But not like that. You said you saw us doing it all the time and saw us hitting each
happened
other.
several
That
times.
never happened.
It happened. It
No, it
happened in the
didn't.
stairwell.
Him smacking me was different.
wasn't
That was so
different.
different. Yes, it was. You said I hit him. I never hit him.
You did. You hit him in the stomach one time,
No, I did
Mallory.
not.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
Y'all went at it all the time.
I'm done with him.